Hey, today I want to talk here at the One Minute Trader podcast a little bit about coping and dealing with stress as a trader. And I want to kind of try to lay out steps, a few steps, 4 steps actually, that can help you toward improving coping with the emotions and the stress that happen in trading. Step number 1 is become a skilled observer. Many traders are unable to work on their ability to cope with adversity because they've never practiced. They've never stood back and identified what they do to cope with challenges, whether these coping responses are working for them or not. The self-assessment that you need to do is really important, and it's improbable that you won't have stress in this business. So looking for ways to incorporate, these types of things like journaling and simply the steps to observe what's going on each day, each week as you deal with the market challenges is really important. So over time, it will be possible to identify kind of how you felt, what you did to deal with that, the coping patterns that tend to occur during successful trading moments and those that are associated with unsuccessful trading runs. The first step toward changing any pattern is becoming aware of that pattern in itself as it's happening, and becoming your own observer is, again, really the first step in your looking at your coping and then changing your coping of that emotion. Number 2, think in terms of sequences, not individual behaviors. So one domino falls, the next falls, etc. How we assemble our different responses into coordinated strategies is more important than the individual coping mechanisms that we employ. So again, as a rule, coping strategies that are more complex tend to be more effective than simple strategies that rely upon 1 or 2 behaviors. So, creating this type of, if this domino falls, what do I do next typically, and trying to break that is really important. So, one of the things that I know is, I know that in my own kind of stress, I go to my breathing. My first response is usually, again, try to have that self-control. Is this going to kill me? No, it's not. Take a deep breath, tell myself not to overreact, and then followed by what are my disciplines within the risk, and what are my problem-solving issues that I can use to positively reappraise the situation. So this coordinated sequence represents really how I try to meet each challenge, and not just the ones in the market. So a lot of these things really are brought in from both inside and outside the market. Step 3 is, once you have those first 2 steps in place, becoming aware of deviations in your effective coping strategies. And again, so this is very important. Once you've observed and are aware of your coping strategies, I like to, for example, when I know that I'm coping poorly, I generally follow a sequence, again, of confrontation or venting, taking responsibility, and then avoidance. Okay, that is, I will vent my frustrations, I'll blame myself for a bad trade, and then I'll step back and avoid the markets. This is a really good example of, for me, a poor strategy. The change in my coping begins with the shift in my emotional state that leads me to vent rather than engage in self-control. So that's a bad way for me to deal with it. Knowing this shift helps me interrupt this poor coping sequence. As soon as I catch myself venting, I stop myself, and I have the opportunity then to consciously kind of attempt some self-control and bring myself back into a more relaxed state. Step 4, again, mentally rehearse this type of coping when these things happen. This is really important, and it's really hard for people. Again, before you're keeping track of these things, it's very difficult to even know that they're going on. So step 4, rehearse what you will do when you are effectively dealing with stress in the marketplaces. And once you're aware of these strategies, then you can rehearse mentally using some imagery paired with relaxation, I think, is always the best thing. Challenging market scenarios, which in fact, we're always in challenging market scenarios. So it's really imperative that you do this by vividly imagining how you would like to cope with adversity in the markets. And these are the types of things, I think, that if you practice this, kind of prepare your mind and body for dealing with these challenges in real time, But this does take repetition and willingness to sit with these types of breathing exercises for more than just a few minutes. So this takes practice, just like anything. You've got to train the muscles, train the brain. And the payoff is that after repeated rehearsal, many good coping sequences become more automatic for you. So it's not realistic at all to think that there is no stress in this business and you can't eliminate it. So any business or profession like doctors have to do the same things, and talking about them and thinking about them right up front is really the best thing you can do. All right. So anything that you can do to practice this type of coping mechanisms will ensure and help your successful performance in the long run. Okay. So risk and uncertainty are never going to go away in this business, and you've got to find a way to develop coping mechanisms that are positive versus negative over the years to be a long-term player in this game of trading. So I hope that's helpful. Short little podcast today at the 1 Minute Trader. If you have any questions, drop me a line, Matt@OneMinuteTrader.TV. If you're looking for any type of guidance, mentorship, we offer a lot of different solutions. You can go to our website, OneMinuteTrader.TV. Drop us a line. Tell your friends about the podcast. If you're enjoying it, please give us a comment and a like. We always appreciate that. It helps us grow in the standings, of course. Thanks very much. Have a great day. And as always, trade well.